China's state-run media has been given constant update and a lot of coverage of the coronavirus epidemic, but they are all in one tone.
仅用了3天时间就完成了改建1期工程。
非常感谢党和政府，
非常有信心，这场战争而且是必胜。
Social media, however, depicts a very different picture.
现在我数一下啊，4袋，1、2、3、4、5、6。
到现在早餐也没有，医生也没有。
3具尸体已经在这里躺了1个上午。
现在每天的运输量和火化量是平时的4到5倍。你相信吗？这些狗官。
The CDC take into consideration the official number from the Chinese CDC might still be very severely underestimated. Welcome to Zooming In, I'm Simone Gao. On February 12th, Hubei health authorities announced an additional 14,840 cases of the coronavirus. It marks the largest single-day rise since the epidemic began, and it's almost 10 times the number of cases from the day before. Health authorities said the spike was due to the inclusion of clinically diagnosed cases in Hubei. Others suspect the true reason is because of a recent change in top leadership in Hubei province and Wuhan city, as these two Xi Jinping appointees seek to avoid taking responsibility for their predecessors' incompetence and concealment of the epidemic. To decode these events, Zooming In did a thorough case study of one of China's most popular media outlets' coverage of the coronavirus epidemic. We also did a preliminary calculation of the infected population and death toll in Wuhan based on the investigation by the Epic Media Group into one of Wuhan's funeral homes. From there, we'll explore the truth of the epidemic, how Chinese leadership view it, their plan going forward, and most importantly, what it means for you if the epidemic in China is 10 times worse than reported. China's Central Propaganda Department said on Tuesday, February 4th, that it would dispatch more than 300 journalists to Hubei province and Wuhan to report on the disease. The decision came on the heels of a meeting chaired by Chinese Communist Party leader Xi Jinping held earlier this week amid mounting public anger from social media at the government's handling of the crisis. During the meeting, Xi emphasized the importance of enhancing the regime's control over online media. He directed that the media should tell moving stories of how people on the front line are fighting the virus to showcase the unity of the Chinese people. China's state-run news media started extensive campaigns immediately after Xi's remarks. On February 4th, Hunan Television, one of China's most popular cable TV channels, aired a 2-hour live broadcast with updates on the coronavirus epidemic. Spanned across 30 or so segments, the reports all take the same tone. We gave you a condensed version of what essentially that narrative is. China's National Health Commission released the latest update on the coronavirus. The number of recovered patients rose to 262. 4,955 patients were recently discharged from medical observation. No new reported deaths. Thanks to scientifically effective treatment, 3 patients have recovered. Laodi's second medical zone was constructed in only 3 days. National Health Commission press conference. How long does it take for a hospitalized patient to recover? Hunan Daily's OPED. Fight for a grand victory over the epidemic. Wuhan Huoshenshan Hospital officially accepting first batch of confirmed patients. We have 4 goals: maximum recovery rate, minimum death rate, 0 infection rate among medical staff, 0 complaint rate from patients. To pick up 4 types of patients all across Hubei. Wuhan rushes to build 13 Fangcang makeshift hospitals to house patients with minor symptoms. New bedding and electric blankets provided at Hongshan Stadium. Life science and coronavirus research team member Chen Yu returns to Wuhan to help study the virus. Second patients to recover from coronavirus in Chenzhou. First, I want to thank the party and the government. Second, I want to thank the doctors and nurses at the hospital. Another 4 patients discharged from hospitals in Huaihua. Another patient discharged from hospitals after recovery. Governor Xu Dazhe holds phone calls with 2 Hunan medical aid teams in Hubei. Xu expects the medical teams to implement the spirit of President Xi's important speeches and instructions. All party members in the medical teams should have the vanguard and exemplary roles to accomplish the decisions and arrangements entrusted by the central government. Young nurse writes to grandfather, "I'm doing what a party member should do. Support Wuhan, fight for the country. It's like joining the army. If the party needs you, you must step forward. My confidence in the victory has surpassed my worries." Hunan pharmaceutical manufacturers resume work to guarantee speedy and steady supply. Xiangdi Technology rushes back to work, produces 20 automated nucleic acid extraction instruments per day. Changsha Province, vegetable supply is more than enough, 8,000 tons of transactions per day. Despite high demand due to the virus outbreak, market prices remain relatively stable. Governor Du Jiahao visited railway stations to review their work. As long as we follow President Xi's lead and guidance from the central government, victory will be ours. Hunan Wangwang Hospital, homemade disinfectant offered to neighborhoods free of charge. Also interspersed throughout the report were music videos eulogizing good deeds under the guidance of the party. Western audiences might find it ridiculous, but sadly, this has become a social norm in China whenever the government tries to deal with a public crisis. But is the propaganda effective? I asked the microbiologist and China expert Dr. Lin Xiaoxu. Do you think the Chinese government has been very effective in shaping public opinion?
I think actually the public opinion was heavily influenced, shaped by the Chinese government's propaganda tactic, because to the Chinese government, it's very clear, even from Xi Jinping's directive, it's very clear the government put propaganda purpose on top of rescuing people. And Chinese government control all the media resources. So when people are being quarantined down at home or in the hospitals, if all they watch just the government's official tune, all the so-called positive energy, then more people will become delusional.
Coming up, social media tells a completely different story of Wuhan. The real death toll might be 8 to 10 times higher than the official number. While we do not attempt to undermine any efforts of the medical staff working on the front line, it is worth questioning what Chinese state-run media do not address and why. In fact, in contrast to China's official media, social media outside China that Chinese people have to circumvent the firewall to use depicts a very different picture. We selected the most credible ones with clear visuals that are self-explanatory. The Huashengshan Hospital is one of 2 massive hospitals China's built to treat confirmed coronavirus patients with severe symptoms. According to China's official media, it is well-equipped and patient-friendly. But a construction worker's video reveals a different story, one that CCTV footage doesn't show. Each room has a tiny window for food delivery. Iron railings are installed on all windows. Doors can only be opened from the outside. People in the rooms cannot leave. The camera person proclaimed, "This is not a hospital. It is a concentration camp." Fangcang hospitals are the massive quarantine centers in Wuhan. Patients there show grievous footage of the center.
这就是所有的人，全部都睡在这个地方，根本都没有隔离。一个隔离间都没有，这么多人，你说要洗漱，要上厕所，到现在早餐也没有，医生也没有。
The Wuhan government released a notice about quarantining 4 types of people, which are people confirmed to have coronavirus, those suspected to have the virus, people with fevers who cannot be ruled out for having the virus, and those who have had close contact with people with confirmed cases. The way and the extent the Chinese authorities enforce the quarantine measures are appalling. In some communities, local officials ordered the lockdown of infected people's homes. That is, to seal their doors and windows so they can't get out. Another type of video circulating on social media is footage of dead bodies in hospitals and dead bodies being taken away. The underlying question is, if we see death everywhere, does that mean the death toll might be much higher than we know?
3具尸体已经在这里躺了1个上午了，有的人已经是凌晨死的，到现在没有人来处理。然后医生、护士还有病人全部都在这种环境下面工作。这就是定点医院的现状，没有任何人管。
哇，里面还有好多尸体，妈妈，妈妈里面好多尸体。
看到了，看到了。
那个车里面，车里面。
看到了，我妈妈看到了。2个有很多。
亲身经历啊。 亲身经历，这么高的，这么高啊！
刚才3个，现在我数一下啊，4袋，1、2、3、4、5、6、7、8，有8个。哎呦，这么多就真的死了，我们搬尸体。 这里面还有整石，也有整石。哎呦，这里面也有整石。哎呦，这你家什么人呢？
父亲。
哎呦，
我的父亲。
哎呦，
里边这边有个1万米的。
完全
是啊是，
完全
我家的，
完了，估计不上来了，已经没有生命特征，
不说了，就了，
没有生命特征了吗？那个刚才3个，现在几分钟？5分钟了，现在已经8个了，又来了1个，来2个。怎么里面还有尸体吗？还有啊，这么多。 哎呦，这家伙这有太多了呀，这样还在搬，这尸体还在搬。哎呦，8个尸体。
The most alarming evidence is a phone call Epic Media Group's undercover investigator made to one of the crematoriums in Wuhan on February 4th. The conversation shows a simple yet heart-wrenching fact. The math simply doesn't add up. The actual number of bodies being cremated doesn't match the government figure by a large margin. Here's the highlight of that phone call.
就是目前的工作量，你们现在感觉到怎么样？还可以完成，对吧？如果再增加，
压力很大，
压力很大，
压力很大。你要是听真话还是要听假话？
你当然要说实话了。我们
实话我就跟领导说，我现在我本人都要快崩溃了。
哦，你讲讲看，为什么？
我现在压力非常大。
那为什么呢？你们现在的
我上级重视这个问题，现在的重心都在医院这块。
对。
我们这块犯人 气量和火化量是平时的4到5倍。我们的人员从春节前到现在，人头上没有休息。
哦，就是。
而且还得不到人员的补充。
那你现在说4到5倍是一天，像昨天你有多少？
我这个数字我不好跟你说，因为我不知道你的真实身份。你光一个电话，我这个按照上级的要求，这个数字不许随便说。因为我刚才已经跟你讲了，现在的业务量是平时的4到5倍。
哦，4到5倍。那你这个业务量是从什么开始？你是从什么时候开始有这么紧张的？
从腊月的29，这个数量就不断在上升。
你说的就是说
已经达到最高峰，腊月29应该是元月23吧，23、22号开始人数就感觉不对头了，这个人数就上升了，有点猛了。
哦，那你们现在是这个每天是3班倒吗？
不叫3班倒，领导，哪有人3班倒啊？我现在能够排2班倒都不错了。
哎呦，
我在这个地方已经是每天能够睡上2、3个小时，已经是很幸福的了。
哎呦，那是你们辛苦了。那现在你看，如果说给你们增加人员的话，需要多少人可以满足目前的这个量？
增加人员。如果按照昨天的那个量的话，至少要给我增加40到50个人。
40到50个人。那你们现在有多少人？
我现在有110多人。
哦，110多人。你们一共有多少个炉子？
我的炉子设备共有18台，但是能够使用的只有11台。
11台。
能够使用的只有11台。
那你这一个？
为什么只有11台？就是他妈的一帮人期待我本来招标搞的，最后能让一帮他妈的反腐差点我们坚决支持，但是不能他妈的那一帮人无视是妈的这是管。算了，我不想跟你多说了，我的人员都没回家了，领导啊。
哎呦，那你现在一个人一个炉子要几个人看？是一个人看就行了吗？
我一个人要管几台炉子，我火化工加上维修的总共才是12个人。
那你刚才不是说你有100多个人吗
？100多人，还有些女同志。我现在车队那边，我9台车，每台车配4个人，2班倒。领导，你算算，我全管的男同志全部去接运尸体了。
那你一台车能当？
同志都去搞调度、接电话、消毒。
那你一台车一次能拉几个人啊？
以前一台车拉1个人的。
现在呢？
我们现在把里面的隔的那些东西给拆掉了，最少拉2个，然后把我的那个以前不是殡葬车的中巴车，把椅子卸掉，一次拉7、8个。
哦，这样的话，那你11台炉子哦，那你这11台炉子那是少了一点。那一台炉子，那处理一个尸体需要多少时间啊
？50分钟。以前按照武汉市的习俗，12点钟以前要落葬，所以说我们就是从一大清早6点多钟开始上班，
对，
火化，到中午就不干了。
哦，对。
现在的情况是怎么样？我告诉领导，遗体接运进来，立即火化不停。
哎呀，那真是现在够忙。还有一个，那你现在每天能不能现在拿来的能不能完成？有没有积压下来放到第2天做的？
火化的积压的这个情况还不是太严重。主要是那个遗体在医院的，我们接运不及时。
哦，就是车少。
后来那个什么，我们武汉市的狗屁书记拔个枪，还说什么要我们在1个半小时把遗体拉完，拉得了吗？让他书记亲自拉一下试一下。
哎呀，那是因为
狗屁官僚主义。
那至少这个你们书记应该。
现在给我们下指标，要纪委的督查我们。医院病人死了以后，要我们1个半小时以内把遗体拉走。
对，那是。
能做得到吗？
那你叫他派车来啊！你叫他派车拉过来嘛，你们负责烧嘛。
我们没人有车没车。
那你叫那个书记，你说你给我拉个人过来。
是书记。我们现在主要是人力的问题，车给我增加这3、4辆都可以了，我的人现在受不了了。
人给你增加40、50个人。
1小时，人不停的去搬运接人。
哎呦！
我们现在所有的人去男同志全部投上去了，只要人他妈的人动的都上去了。
对呀， 除了这个医院之外，有没有这个就是社区直接给你们拉来的？有些倒在路上的，他就不一定去医院了，对不对？
有，前几天我做了个统计数据。我们最近这个就是前几天数据啊，数据不代表这几天。这几天医院的就医情况有所改善。前几天我做了个统计，38%是医院接来的。61%是在家里死亡的。所以说这个就医的情况很不好，前几天。
对。
你想想，60%都在家里死的。
哎呦。
当然，这个家里死的不一定是这个肺炎啊，也其他我说的这个数字没有区分肺炎和非肺炎的。
现在大部分都是。
武汉市这帮狗官把这个城市管理的一塌糊涂。
The investigator called the funeral home again shortly afterwards and got this figure.
根据负责人的说，昨天是我们最多的一天。
昨天是多少？你能不能告诉我一下？他说40多个，不到50个，是不是这样的？
我就姑且相信你一下。
你说。
我昨天总共接运的遗体，127个。烧掉了116个。
OK。
然后确诊数，确诊数是8个。我拖的这127个中间，根据死亡证书上面标明的确诊的8个，写的疑似的，是48个。我这是全部有死亡证书在我手上的。
According to China's official records, 131 people are expected to die in Wuhan every day. Wuhan has 7 funeral homes, and they can cremate 135 bodies daily on average. Based on this information, Zooming In did a preliminary calculation. We concluded that since January 25th, 2020, when the funeral workers said the number of bodies arriving at the funeral home started to rise, roughly 470 people died of coronavirus every day in Wuhan. From January 25th to February 12th, over 8,000 people could have died from the disease in the city. On February 12th, the Epoch Times reported that funeral service teams from multiple provinces were going to Wuhan to help transport and cremate corpses. These teams held ceremonies before leaving, where they held up banners that indicated where they were from and what their mission was in Wuhan. I also asked Dr. Lin Xiaoxu what it means for the rest of the world if the coronavirus epidemic in China is actually much worse than the Chinese authorities lead us to believe.
I think actually the whole world need to be very cautious about this outbreak because, in many countries that are bordering with China, for example, Vietnam's, Turkestan's, and, even Afghanistan, many of these countries, they don't have good public health systems. So many of the countries around the world, not like United States or UK or other, well-established, well-developed countries. And so those countries, if you got some people infected, some imported case from China, then it's a whole big disaster for the region. So, even for Latin America, so many Chinese people may travel to Latin America too. For Africa, for example, Cairo is one of the biggest airports that will receive many Chinese people. And many of these countries did not completely close down their airlines flying in and out of China, right? So that's why it's still a huge risk for the whole world. If any of the developing countries got a severe cluster case happened in their countries for this Wuhan novel coronavirus infection, then in these countries it could quickly turn into an epidemic and it can spread in a very uncontrollable fashion.
Coming up, the Chinese New Year holiday has ended. Xi Jinping forced the business to open. Could that cause a second wave of the outbreak? China's extended New Year's holiday officially ended on February 10th. The 174 million migrant workers from rural regions are supposed to go back to work at that time. But the coronavirus epidemic has stymied domestic travel. Buses, trains, and planes are still severely restricted. Migrant workers are being asked to quarantine themselves for 14 days after they return. Most companies that can function with staff working remotely have told employees to work from home. The whole country is still partially shut down. However, one person is not happy with the situation. According to Reuters, after reviewing reports on the outbreak from the National Development and Reform Commission and other economic departments, she told local officials during a February 3rd meeting of the Politburo Standing Committee that some of the actions taken to contain the virus are harming the economy. He urged them to refrain from more restrictive measures. Local authorities outside Wuhan, where the virus is thought to have first taken hold, have shut down schools and factories, sealed off roads and railways, banned public events, and even locked down residential compounds. She said some of these steps have not been practical and have sown fear among the public, according to two people familiar with the meeting. She is obviously worried about the economy. The Politburo Standing Committee stressed the importance of keeping people employed and strengthening policies to support small to medium-sized businesses. But will sending a big portion of the population back to work cause a second wave of the outbreak? Here's what Lin Xiaoxu has to say.
Yes, I seriously concerned that this might trigger another wave of outbreak inside China. So on one recent report by Dr. Zhu Nanshan, the leading expert of disease prevention in China, and in this report he mentioned, so among 1,000 patients, 1,000 people infected with this novel coronavirus, and the mean age range for these patients is actually only 47 years old. So that means a lot of the young people, a lot of adults, they are actually got infected. This is very different from the seasonal flu. Usually you see, kids and then, senior people got infected, right? So that means a lot of young people become infected with this virus. So for people who go back to work, and so majority of people are, within this age range of 25-year-old to 60 years old. So they are can easily to become infected by the virus.
The coronavirus epidemic has not yet shown any sign of winding down. A recent survey conducted by Tsinghua University concluded that about 85% of small to medium-sized Chinese companies can survive for only 3 months if they can't resume work due to the epidemic. Will China's economy crash? Will China be hit with a second round of the outbreak? Or will both or neither of them happen? Stay tuned. Zooming In brings you insights into the epidemic you can't find anywhere else. I'm Simone Gao. Thanks for watching and see you next time.